I guess I'll get going here. I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. I don't know if anybody was planning on turning their screen on or anything, but I have my talking points. A few things I was going to go over. Hopefully, I won't take too long. I know I'm always a little long-winded, but really, what I'd like is as I'm going through everything, if anyone has any questions, just let me know. Would love to make this a little bit more interactive and helpful for you guys. The reason I kind of put this together or started thinking about it, to be honest, was I feel like I get both sides of constantly having my daily Zoom calls basically with our staff and talking about things that college coaches are thinking, the conversations that we're having, and obviously things being a little bit different from for the than the club talk. Obviously we know, as Travis mentioned, a while back we had our meeting, we have our game plan, of when everything opens up and what we're going to do. But on the college side, there's still a lot to be decided and a lot of conversations and a lot of things up in the air, but just wanted to give you the best update that I possibly could. The main talking points that I was going to go through today is the NCAA's rule to give everybody, everybody that's in college right now, that extra year of eligibility. I know a lot of guys saw that with Mike Sowers was a guy that just decided for his extra year, and going through that. Wanted to talk through college coaches changing. Obviously you see coaches changing jobs, a lot of the high profile job at Johns Hopkins just being filled, and how that kind of affects guys a little bit. And then really from there, at the end, we'll open it up to like, I'll talk about, what's going on this summer to the best of my knowledge, what, the NCAA is talking about, when things might possibly be decided. And then also talking about SATs. I know a lot of guys, have the want to go to Ivy League schools, high academic schools. And obviously I know there's a lot of questions around the SATs for everybody with not being able to take them right at the moment. I was going to start with basically, the extra year of eligibility. So just kind of clearing that up for everybody. The neat thing is we saw with Mike and his decision to go to Duke, and finally making that, public. Everybody that was in college basically has the ability to come back for an extra year. So even this year's freshmen on our team at Cabrini, for the most part, they kind of have the option, if they like it, to almost go back like they were seniors this year. Treat this year as a full-on redshirt year. And this is for every class, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, having the ability to come back. Why is that important, and why did I want to bring it up? For the 2020 guys, and really this will affect 21s through, there's always that possibility that the senior class is going to end up coming back. So instead of having the normal, hey, seniors graduate, freshmen come in and fill those roles, it is going to add a different caveat for a little bit, with this. The biggest question, that I wanted to answer, and through what I've heard from all my friends in Division I and guys that I've talked to, the good thing is nobody plans to do anything negative towards the incoming freshman, right? Every freshman coming in is still going to have a spot on the team. They're still going to keep their scholarships that they sign their NLI. They're going to have, the whole nine. The hard part, with it a little bit, and the thing that I think a lot of places are trying to decide is how big they're keeping their roster size. Do they have a roster cap? Do they have, the ability to have, 60 guys on the team if they choose, which obviously for 21s, for 22s, is a great conversation to have with a coach of, A, do you have a roster cap? And then B, with guys coming back, how big do you want your roster to be? Because why that's important, is you don't want every senior class, or you don't want 5 or 6 guys that are all starters as seniors, to end up coming back. Unfortunately, I think the major thing that's going to happen is a lot of the guys that are starters, a lot of the better players are really going to end up being the guys that come back to the team, So even if you're a 2022, the guys that are sophomores in college right now might all end up deciding they want to come back for their 5th year. and be able to play. And it's a great question to be able to figure out, what does a coach plan for his roster size there. And really the main thing, and the main question I would advise everybody when looking and talking to coaches is asking about travel roster. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. I've talked to a couple coaches. They're like, we're fortunate we don't have a roster cap, so we can have 60 guys on the team. But at the same time, they also don't have unlimited budgets. So, if you're going to talk about a flight or a major bus ride, they might have 60 guys on the team, but only 40 of them are gonna travel to away games, which obviously is something that's going to make things, very difficult for the next, couple incoming classes, especially, possibly your freshman years you're younger, of having teams that are going to have a travel roster, which might be, different than the way it's been previously. As I jump over to college coaches changes and different things and coaches moving on, as always, if you want to write it in the chat or jump in and with any questions, feel free. As much as I enjoy talking, I always rather hear other people's voices as well. I think we saw it a little bit through Mesa, and you saw it a little bit, like I'm sure everybody, in the lacrosse world kind of knew about the coaching change at Johns Hopkins. And this is something that I always like discussing just to make sure that everybody knows. Obviously this is more Division I than it affecting Division III, but understanding, kind of the spots on the team, what's awarded to you, and scholarships as well. I went through it with our 2020 team. Brenny McBride was a guy that committed to Harvard, committed fairly early, was committed for a little bit. And then, going into his senior year this past year, the coach was let go, and it was a tough spot for him. He wasn't sure, what was going on. The hard part with everything, and the good thing is, they pushed back recruiting. So now, nobody's committing until their junior year. But until, guys sign their NLI, that scholarship dollar isn't necessarily locked into you. So, if a coach offers you X amount of scholarship each year, and then, the coach gets let go, it's really up to the new coach to decide if he's going to honor that, if he's going to keep it, if he's going to change it. And it's the same thing with, like I said, just having an offer to be on the team as well. You do see it quite a bit, sometimes when you see it on Inside Lacrosse or Twitter or whatever it may be. Sometimes with some guys when they decide to jump schools, and, for me, you might every once in a while you look at like, man, why would you decommit from this school to go to, this other school? That isn't necessarily always the player's decision. Sometimes that is, a coach, not giving them a spot, telling them, hey, it might not work out academically, we might not be able to get you in. And you see that as well with kind of new coaches. I know, same thing when I was buddies with a couple, Kip Turner down at Virginia, and when they, took the job down there, they basically re-recruited their entire committed team. The first thing that they started doing was watching their guys that were already committed to Virginia. And a lot of them stayed with their commitments. And obviously a couple didn't. So it's a major thing that you want to, ask about. And obviously if I can help, or any of the other coaches and your club teams, of what's the rumors kind of going around. Obviously that's what I like to be here for, and I can help out as the best I can. Jumping over to the ACT, SATs. I know this is a tough spot, especially for the 21s. 22s, not so much of an issue, because I think you guys will have a decent amount of time to be able to still take the SAT, ACT. But at the same time, it's a little bit stressful. If you're looking at some of these schools, that are higher academic schools, and putting a lot of emphasis on the ACT, SAT. I know there's a lot of questions, right? So the ACTs that we're going to be offered in August and October, it looks like they're going to add a September date in there, especially if August doesn't happen, or there's obviously the possibility if it does, with that September date being added, of having the ability to take the test, multiple times and really work on it. I've always said with the ACT, SAT, I don't know a school that, that takes it as a negative if you take it multiple times. I don't know, when I was taking the test, there's always that rumor, like, you want to take it 3 times, maybe 4, but, it's not going to look good if you take it 6 or 7 or 8 times. I haven't heard that, not that many guys I think are taking it, 8 times. But I do think, having it and taking it and getting a learned skill with that test, I think helps out. So, it's a unique time with them adding that September date, because now, you might have the opportunity to take the test, twice or 3 times in a short period, which could be really beneficial if it works out. I know, talking to my buddy at Harvard, he said there's a lot of talks with, the ACT and SATs of possibly going online, depending on how, if August is canceled, if, possibly even September, even maybe October, who knows, there's the possibility of that going online. So now students can still take the SAT and ACT. His advice to me was just kind of like, we're not, who knows how that's going to go with each school, right? Is Harvard, is some of the Ivies or some are schools going to take, an online SAT, as a legit score, and that's kind of one of the questions, I think that still is out there. Hopefully, obviously, we get through all this and it becomes a non-issue and everyone's sitting in a classroom taking the SATs in August. But obviously, it's a major thing. The thing that he really hit home to me is, more schools across the nation, really are going to more of the test optional, kind of, admitted, scale. So not having to take, the SAT or ACT, or not having to need it to be admitted to a school, is obviously something that other schools I think might be looking into for a year or 2, or maybe even for the long haul. Cabrini right now for me is already, if you're going to come to Cabrini, it's a test optional school. So you can already do that at some schools, others you can't. But I know, schools are talking about it, looking into it. So for everybody, obviously 21s, 22s, for all you guys, the thing that he said is he's already telling guys that they're in communication with, guys that maybe already committed, that clubs on campus and in your school, high school, all your extracurriculars are going to be extremely important, right? Because, you look at some of these schools, there might be multiple people that have 4.0s or whatever the GPA is, and similar type, classes and honors classes and AP classes. But now it might end up being more of the small stuff, the extracurriculars, the clubs, the things that you might also do with the school that help you and separate, trying to be able to get you to, be admitted to that school. So that's something that I think is huge. I think for the 22s, which, a decent amount of 22 guys on here, I don't think it's a big worry at all, right? I mean, you guys will have plenty of time to be able to take the test. They do have the pre-tests and some of the other stuff that you can do to get a little bit of a baseline to see where you're going to, you might land on that. But for the 21s, hopefully some of you guys have already taken it. If you haven't, it just might push back, some schools. I mean, that's the weird thing with recruiting and where everybody's at right now a little bit, is it's going to be hard for coaches to take commitments, and it's going to be hard for, kids to give commitments basically if they haven't taken the ACT or SAT, and they need it, to be admitted. So obviously there's going to be a lot of, possibly hold and wait on that, depending on obviously how it ends up playing out. Obviously, again, any questions, feel free to let me know. And then lastly, talking about the recruiting summer, and what this might look like. Obviously, the first thing I'll start off with is obviously nobody knows. We're trying to figure it out, and it's kind of day to day. The most new information I can give you is basically in about a week, I believe the date is May 13th. The NCAA is voting across the board for all sports to figure out if they are going to lift the dead period. So basically right now, with the virus and with everybody, being quarantined right now, there's no visits, there's no recruiting, there's no athletics. They have everything basically off until June 1. So what they're doing is they're going to vote. Like I said, I believe the 13th is the date. in the next week or so to figure out, are they going to extend it? If they do, does it get extended to July 1? Does it get extended to September 1? Who knows? But that's what they're going to figure out. That's going to be a major thing, and that's a major thing that college coaches are kind of looking for and waiting to see what happens there. The one thing that we've talked about, and when I've talked with all of my buddies and college coaches and people that I know, as much as we're all focused lacrosse wise, a lot of this was going to be decided based off of football and basketball. Obviously they're not, I don't think they're going to allow things to be open state by state. The NCAA has always been a major proponent of trying to keep a level playing field, for everybody. And the example that I keep using and that we keep talking about, right now with a lot of talk of the state of Georgia opening up, we're like, there's no way they're going to allow like Georgia football to be having recruits and camps and all these different things while Alabama football is, closed and not able to do anything. So obviously that's something that I think will be a major part, of figuring out. So it's neat with that going out in the next week. And then lastly, really the thing that's going to happen for me is, and we've talked about at Cabrini, is we just say, like, the best that every coach has really been saying on the college side is keep yourself available. The best info we can give you that, because while maybe huge tournaments and the big tournaments that we usually go to, whether hopefully we have them, and that's obviously what everyone plans for. But if we don't, and those are unable to happen, then the trickle down effect is going to happen with, all right, are people able to have prospect days? Are, schools able to have small little tournaments, instead of going to a big NLF tournament with 100 teams, would we be able to go to and play in a 4 or 5 person tournament at a small venue with under, 200 people, and that's where I think, the best info that I can give everybody is just be ready to move, when things come available. Prospect days are big for everybody. It might be a big thing this summer. Nobody's really sure. But the thing that I would say is, this is something where if you wanted to try and stay in contact with coaches, email coaches, figure out what their prospect days look like. Right now for us at Cabrini, we have we have dates available to have prospect days in both June, July, and August. Where some schools, Villanova right down the road, they're not having any camps this summer whatsoever. So even with a lot of schools, Georgetown as well, same with Harvard, same with, a lot of these other schools are just saying, hey, they want to put all the emphasis on trying to get back to school in the fall, which I can't say I disagree with. But at the same time, if you're looking for stuff as it opens, with prospect days or schools of interest, I'd really try to get in front of that, of seeing what schools are open. Obviously, again, I'm here to help and reach out to coaches. If you're like, hey, I'm really interested in Loyola, where do they stand, or school X or Y, let me know, and I'm happy to reach out to those coaches and see what their prospect days are looking like. Do they have dates in the summer, in August, whenever? And that's a major spot. And then, like I said, the thing that we're planning at Cabrini as best we can, and I know other schools are, and some of these, clubs of, if these huge camps don't happen, what can we then do, right? Can we go to small events? Can we go to, like I said, those little tournaments? And instead of, like I said, all the players kind of traveling all over the world for coaches to see them, are coaches allowed to travel? Does it eliminate, having so many players go everywhere, but, do all the coaches ascend to Philly for a weekend, and there's a bunch of small tournaments that they can choose from and be able to see club teams and different things. That's the question, right? My boss is on the board of directors for the IMLCA, one of the governing bodies for lacrosse. And, they've started mulling over, I don't know if it's going to happen or what, but they've kind of started mulling over trying for the IMLCA to basically run, I almost want to equate them to like Under Armour tryouts, except there wouldn't be no tryouts. But can they do, can college coaches be like a traveling band and, they have a individual showcase in New England, and then everyone college coach wise is in New England for 2 days. They drive to upstate New York for 2 days. They drive to Long Island for 2 days, through Jersey down to Philly. Is that, what the model might be best, instead of, guys playing with club teams and whatnot, is that an option where, hey, there might be, like I said, an Under Armour, tryout type style in Philly that we can throw together and that people can sign up for. It might be a possibility, but that's where college coaches at least, are all waiting and ready to go, and everybody that I've talked to has said basically, like, just make sure your players are staying in shape. They're doing everything they can, from home, obviously, with just even staying active with going for runs, doing some workouts at home. Obviously, we know you're not training on a field, and not having team practice, but keeping yourself in somewhat of shape, because the thing that college coaches are all wishing for, from everybody I talk to, is like, as soon as they get the call that, this is opening or that's opening or this is a possibility, they all plan on hitting the road and recruiting whenever that may be. Who knows if it's all of August, I don't know if they would allow, September and October to be full on recruiting visits, which obviously doesn't help out for guys that are multiple sport athletes and things of that nature. But everybody is waiting, to go. And that's the one thing I just wanted everybody to know and hear. Obviously, like I said, we have our plan with Mesa, but when it comes to smaller camps, prospect days, individual showcases, it's going to move quickly, and especially the prospect day stuff. If you are able to figure out what schools you might want to hit, I think would be a huge benefit to you, because if schools, open, everybody's going to be sending out, you guys are going to get 1,000 prospect day emails all overnight. And it's going to be tough to sort through unless you've kind of been able to narrow it down and say, hey, I really want to make sure I go to visit this school or go to this prospect day or things of that nature. So, that's really all I had as I ramble on for 25 minutes. For anybody that's on here, if you have any questions, anything I can answer, obviously, please let me know. Anything, as always, my added responsibility with Mesa is working with all the different coaches, through your teams, Coach Bohr, with the 22s, same, a lot of the 21s have already been committed. All the coaches been great with getting those guys, for the ones that aren't, obviously if I can help out in any way, let me know. I'm always trying to reach out to those guys and pick their brain. And I've had multiple coaches kind of ask me about guys and filling out questionnaires and, hey, who do we think is a good fit here and there? And really what I'm trying to do for everybody that's on is get to know you guys better. So now I can advocate for you as best I can. I've tried to do, and I've done some individual sit downs and Zoom meetings with guys, and I'm happy to do those anytime that works on your guys' schedule. To get to know you guys better, get to know your families, and be able to talk to you guys once we do get to, tournaments and seeing you guys on the sidelines. But at the same time,